The alien princess said to her human sentinel, "I selected you long before they sent you." The throne room stretched before him like a cathedral of light and shadow. Guard Captain James Porter stood at attention, his rifle held precisely across his chest, every muscle trained for the protection detail that would define his career. The Valoran Empire had requested human sentinels for the first time in 3 centuries of galactic relations, and Earth Command had sent their best, Princess. Kira descended the crystalline steps with movements that seemed to flow rather than walk. Her skin held the pale blue luminescence common to her people, and her eyes, those distinctive violet orbs that saw across spectrums humans could barely imagine, fixed on him with an intensity that made his training falter for just a moment. "Captain Porter," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated in his chest. "Welcome to Valora." He saluted sharply. "Your Highness, I am honored to serve." Something flickered across her face, an expression he could not read. She moved closer, close enough that he could smell the strange floral scent that clung to her robes. "Walk with me, Captain. There are things you should know about your assignment." Protocol demanded he remain 3 paces behind, but she gestured him to her side. They moved through corridors where walls shifted with bioluminescent patterns, past courtiers who bowed low at her passage. The palace seemed alive, breathing with energy that made the hair on his arms stand on end. "Do you believe in fate, Captain?" she asked suddenly. James considered his answer carefully. "I believe in duty, Your Highness, and preparation." She smiled, and for the first time he saw sadness in it. A very human answer. "Tell me, what do you know of the selection process that brought you here?" Earth Command chose candidates based on combat effectiveness, tactical awareness, and psychological stability. I ranked highest in all categories. "Yes," Kira said softly. "You did. But that is not why you are here." They emerged onto a balcony overlooking the capital city. Spires of living crystal reached toward 3 moons hanging in the purple sky. Valoran architecture grew rather than was built, shaped by psionic engineers over decades. It was beautiful and utterly alien. 3 years ago, the princes began. I attended the Galactic Summit on Terra, your Earth. It was my first visit to a human world. She paused, her fingers tracing patterns on the balcony rail. There was an incident. A protest turned violent. Extremists who opposed Valoran trade agreements. James remained silent, sensing this was not a story to interrupt. My guards formed a perimeter, but the crowd surged. There was a weapon, an explosive device. And then there was a human, a soldier on leave, who happened to be passing. He saw the threat before anyone else. He moved without hesitation, putting himself between the danger and dozens of innocent people. Her voice grew quiet. Between the danger and me. His breath caught. He remembered that day. The explosion. The bodies. The medal ceremony he had tried to refuse. "You were that soldier," Kira continued. "You saved 43 lives that day, including mine. And when I saw you lying in that hospital, broken but alive, I made a choice. Your Highness, I don't understand." She turned to face him fully. "Valorans possess certain abilities your people consider supernatural. We see timelines, possibilities branching like rivers. It is imperfect, clouded by choice and chaos, but sometimes the currents are clear." Her hand moved toward his face, stopping just short of touching. "I saw you in my future, James Porter, standing beside me, not just as a guard, but as something more." The implications hung between them like gravity. When the council decided to request human sentinels, I made certain recommendations. Specific criteria that only one candidate could meet. Your commanders thought they chose you, but I selected you long before they sent you. James felt the ground shift beneath his certainty. "That's impossible." The selection process was rigorous, blind. No outside influence. Your people are brilliant, Captain, but you are young in galactic terms. You do not yet understand how power truly operates among the stars. She smiled sadly. I ensured you would be here. And now you are. Why? The question came out harsher than he intended. Because in every timeline where humanity survives what is coming, you are beside me. Because the Valoran Empire stands at a precipice, and the choices made in the next year will determine whether 1,000 worlds live or burn. Because I am tired of being alone in the knowledge of what must be done. She drew a breath that seemed to carry the weight of worlds. And because when I held your hand in that hospital while you recovered, I felt something I had been taught was impossible between our species. The silence stretched. Somewhere in the city below, bells chimed the evening hour. James had trained for combat, for protection details, for the 100 ways a guard might die in service. He had not trained for this. What is coming? He asked finally. Kira looked out over her city. War. The Krull Dominion has been quiet for too long. They mass at the border, building fleets that dwarf anything seen in living memory. The Laura is the key to this sector. If we fall, 20 allied worlds fall with us. And humanity, so new to the galactic stage, will be swept away like dust. Then we fight. It is not so simple. There are factions within my own court who would sue for peace, who would surrender our sovereignty to avoid bloodshed. Others who would strike first and doom us all. She turned back to him. I need someone I can trust absolutely. Someone whose loyalty is not tangled in centuries of political debt. Someone who sees clearly because they are not blinded by what has always been. You need a human. I need you. James looked at this alien princess who had reached across species and time itself to bring him here. Every regulation, every protocol screamed that this was wrong. She was his protectorate, not his partner. Earth Command would have his rank. The political fallout could damage human Valoran, relations for generations. But he had thrown himself on a grenade once without thinking. He had acted because it was right, because people needed saving. And standing here, looking into those violet eyes that held the weight of prophecy, he understood that this moment had been coming since that day in the plaza. What do you need me to do? Relief washed across her features. First, protect me. That is your official duty, and it is real. There are those who would see me dead rather than let me guide Velora through what is coming. Second, be my counsel. Humans think differently than we do, more directly, more willing to break old patterns. I need that perspective. And third, she hesitated. Stand with me when I must make choices that will be called treason by some and salvation by others. Be the proof that different species can build something new together, that we need not repeat the old cycles of dominance and subjugation. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. Be my friend in a court where I have none. James Porter had joined the military to serve something larger than himself. He had volunteered for the Sentinel program because humanity needed representatives who would honor their species among the stars. But standing here, he realized that service sometimes meant abandoning the safe path for the necessary one. Your Highness, he said formally. Then, with deliberate care, he added, Kira, I will stand with you. Not because fate demands it, but because it is right. The smile that lit her face held genuine joy. Then we have a chance. A small one, but real. When do we start? Tonight. The council meets at midnight to discuss the Krell situation. You will attend as my personal guard. They will object to a human presence, but that will be instructive in itself. She turned back toward the palace. There is much to prepare. I will have quarters assigned near my chambers. And James? Yes? Thank you for not running when I told you the truth. Many would have, He followed her back into the living palace, past guards who eyed him with suspicion, through a world that was not his own. Somewhere, Earth Command would be filing reports about his successful deployment. They would note his exemplary performance, his adaptation to alien protocols. They would never know that the real mission had begun years ago in a hospital room, with a princess who could see tomorrow, making a choice that would ripple through history. The war was coming. The palace held knives as surely as it held beauty. And James Porter, human sentinel, had just agreed to stand at the center of a storm that would test whether different worlds could truly unite. But as he took his position outside the princess's strategy room, rifle ready and mind alert, he felt something he had not expected. He felt right where he needed to be. The first stars emerged in the Valoran sky, and the future, uncertain and dangerous, waited for them both.